All rise. We will be. Please be seated.
Thank you very much, witness. Welcome back. Mr. Pugliati, you may proceed. But just so that the record is clear on where things stand, Mr. Hooper has effectively put you on notice that he contests the expertise of this witness to translate or interpret text or speeches from Swahili to English. And you were pointed out, well, you would know how to qualify the witness. It's up to you if you believe that your qualification of the witness is enough. It is one thing, of course, to have somebody listening to Swahili speech to say he recognizes the text. It may not be the same thing to move from Swahili to English horizontally. So we leave that to you. In allowing you to proceed as you want to, it does not imply any ruling on the expertise of this witness in the matter.
I'm grateful for that, Mr. President, and we'll proceed as we had intended to do, to ask the witness to listen to the video and read the English at the same time, rather than watching the video and then later reading the English.
Your Honor, frankly, as with previous witnesses who conducted this exercise, we're not standing in the way of a general statement that this witness is capable of authenticating the translation in a general sense. There's obviously a limit because he's not a self-correcting translator, as it were. He hasn't got those particular skills others listening and interpreting for us possess. But generally, I notice from the witness review document that, in fact, he's already been presented in the course of discussions with the prosecution with these sections. And he's, for example, the translation at lines 741 to 71 is confirmed as correct. I see that's in the document that I've been provided. So what I suggest is that my friend can go directly to the English translations and read those segments that he wishes to. And I, for my part, will accept that those are generally correct. It's plain, looking at the text, that there's mistakes. ADM, for example, when it should be ODM. JP when it should be DP. But overall, having read these particular texts, we don't dispute their general accuracy. So he needn't be used as a translator. Let's go to the document that we've got. We've got the document. That's been translated. And in general, we accept that. In the future, if we have any disagreement with it, we'll of course let the court know. But at the moment, it can stand.
Mr. King-Katwa?
Your Honours, we're content to accept that proposal, but we also do note that the witness says he doesn't recall hearing any of this at the time, so we're unsure of the probative value of reading something into the evidence that he doesn't recall himself initially, but otherwise we're okay to proceed in this manner.
Mr. Pugliati, please proceed.
Yes, if our learned friends are agreeing to the English text that's before them and before all in the court, then we can move on to the next segment.
That is my understanding, that they do accept it. Mr. Langbrisa, Mr. Kikinkatwa, you nod. You accept the text as well, just as Mr. Hooper has done. Yes.
Has it been read into the transcript? Yes. Right.
It's in evidence, so we can make submissions at a later date on it.
So it's part of the, it's already an exhibit.
It is.
Yes. And we can proceed.
I'm grateful. We'll be showing one more speech excerpt, and the timestamps for this are the ones that I had incorrectly mentioned earlier. So I'll take those in the court to 57 minutes and 4 seconds in the video. And we'll be showing this to the timestamp 58 minutes and 34 seconds, so about 90 seconds.
Now, we're now at let's move back a bit. Tab 10, the reason I say let's move back, it's a difference between reading it onto the record, the whole text, versus saying the text that the defense accept is from this point to that point, so that is on the record. Basically the passage itself, without having to read the entire thing onto the record. Because it may well be that it is in evidence, but the defense does not accept the entire transcript.
Of course. We'd started in the translation document on page 22 at line 740, and we paused before we got to the end further to Your Honour's intervention, and I believe that we made it to around line 750. But I couldn't be exact on that.
So the passage then, the text of interest to you in the English transcript would be from lines at page 22, line what, 741 to
757.
757.
Yes.
And Mr. Hooper, you say you accept the accuracy of that translation?
Yes, but we prefer it read in rather than just a reference in the transcript to it to another document on another page, and in the future having to call that up and look at it. Wouldn't it be easier, these aren't long sections, to actually just read in the bit that my friend's relying on?
We can do it both ways, Mr. There's some good sense in proceeding in that way, Mr. Pugliati. Or would it be better for you to do it your own way?
Well, from our perspective, it's in the record. The references are clear. In any later submissions, anything that's in evidence that's been admitted can be referred to. But if the court wishes for us to read that in, we can do. But we see little utility.
Yeah, let's proceed then. Let's proceed. Let's do it your way. That saves us some time.
So, witness, we're going to show you a second segment now. It's not very long.
Right, can I just then interrupt and say this segment we can see in the text at line 753 relates to ADM, and it's repeated 3 times on that line. That's obviously incorrect, and if the prosecution can say they accept that, it's the ODM we're talking about quite plainly, and it should be corrected.
We'd also note for the record that the word sick in square brackets appears after the first occurrence of ADM, but other than that, we note this is a transcript based on an audio and video recording.
All right, Mr. Pugliati, what's the next section you're interested in?
In the translation, Your Honour, this is page 27, and we'll be taking it from line 925, page 27. I may have given the timestamps a moment ago, but I'll do it again. This is 57 minutes and 4 seconds, and we'll be playing it to 58 minutes and 34 seconds. Now, witness, please, you can hear the speech through your headphones. I'd like you to look at the lines 925 to 950 whilst this is playing. We'll play the video now.
Harambe! Harambe! Jamuge! Jamuge tugul! Mirembe! Mirembe mno! Misawa! Misauru! Mbiamuno! Haya. Mimi nasalamia hiyo kuonyesha kwamba Kenya iko hapa. Na langu litakuwa kwa kifupi sana, kwa sababu ni siku kubwa sana kwa watu wa sehemu hii, na haswa kwa rafiki wangu Mheshimiwa Ruto, kwa sababu amepewa heshima kubwa sana na wakaaji na wazee wa sehemu hii kwa kutunukiwa kama mzee wa sehemu hii ya Rift Valley. Hiyo si kazi ndogo hata kidogo. Na la pili ambalo limefanya tuje hapa ni kwa sababu nyinyi mnajua baada ya mambo ya referendum na tukasema tuko kwa ODM, watu wamejiandaa, wamenoa visu, wanataka kukatakata hiyo ODM. Na ndio tunasema wakinoa yao visu vyao, na sisi tunanoa vyetu.
Now, witness, having read the English in front of you as that was played, can you confirm for the court whether the English is accurate or not?
It's accurate.
Now, can you tell the court who that was in the video?
Is Musalia Mudavadi.
And at the time of the ceremony, can you tell the court what he did or who he was?
He had been a member of parliament, but I don't recall whether at that particular time he was still a member of parliament.
Now, do you recall if you were still at the ceremony when this speech was given, or if you had left by then?
I did not see him make that speech.
Were you still present on the grounds?
I might have been present, but maybe I was away from his view.
Witness, that was the last excerpt I wanted to show you. I just want...
I am just a little concerned as to the particular segments that my friend's showing, and where that ends. We can see the last line there, sharpening knives, and he stops. And if we turn over the page and read on through the next page and over, we see a wholly different qualitative difference in terms of what's being said. So I wouldn't like the prosecution to be placing us in the position where we're all put in a false position. I'm critical of the way in which that segment was suddenly cut off at the point it was. And I wonder if my friend's got a nefarious objective in doing so.
The only objective, Mr. President, is one of expediency. This is a very long video with several speeches, and we're trying to just show one or two excerpts. If my learned friend has any questions about further context of these videos, he's very free to put them in his cross-examination to the witness.
Well, I'm merely puzzled that a video that's in evidence, with a transcript that's in evidence, with a translation that is in evidence, is being shown to a witness who hasn't actually witnessed any of these speeches. So what is the exercise that my friend's negotiating at the moment, and how can it be said to be time-saving?
Mr. Hooper, you heard the witness clearly say at the end of that he did not observe the speech. He said he did not recall that speech being made. You're still saying, despite that, you still have concern that it should not have been put on the record. Is that it?
Well, I'm just puzzled as to the point of an exercise revisiting evidence that's already been submitted before the court, and doing it in a way, in this way, with respect of a witness who hasn't shared these video moments himself, has no recollection of.
We are in open session, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Puliat. Proceed, please.
Witness, you said that there had been some violence and demonstrations in Eldoret on the 26th of December. Can I just confirm, is that Eldoret town or another part of Eldoret?
Eldoret town.
And is this something that you saw yourself?
Yes, I saw part of the demonstrations.
What time did you arrive at Eldoret town?
I arrived in the afternoon of that day.
And what did you see when you arrived that afternoon?
There were many people demonstrating, shouting. I also saw roadblocks made of roadside stalls that are used for small businesses that had been pulled onto the road. And generally there were people running up and down.
So the people that you said were demonstrating, do you know who they were supporters of?
Supporters of ODM.
And what were they shouting?
I got to understand that they were alleging that PNU, which is the Party of National Unity, for whom the presidential candidate was the sitting president, had made arrangements to stuff ballot papers marked in favor of Mr. Kibaki, who was then the candidate for PNU, well in advance before the elections. So they were saying there was rigging that had already taken place before the elections.
Now you said these were ODM supporters. Were you able to tell what ethnicity they were?
Yes, they were Kalenjins, mostly Kalenjins, Luos, and Luyas.
Were you able to assess their age?
They were not one particular age, but mostly composed of young people.
Now the roadblocks that you say you saw, were these manned or staffed by anybody?
No.
Did you see anybody standing at these roadblocks?
No.
Were vehicles able to move around this part of Eldoret?
I didn't see many vehicles. Because of the demonstrations, I could only see maybe one vehicle at a time, after a long time. But the traffic flow that is what was supposed to be flowing normally, so like so many vehicles in a row, was not there. On what part of the town where the demonstrations were mainly concentrated, where I saw them?
Now, the stalls that you said had been used to erect these roadblocks, would you know who they had belonged to?
I wouldn't.
And how would you describe the atmosphere at this juncture?
It was tense on the part of some of us who are not members of ODM, and people who owned businesses had actually locked themselves inside their businesses.
You said that the demonstrators were saying that the election was being rigged. Do you recall anything else that was said or that you heard?
Yes, I recall that at some point I met my... I think I need to mention that. I don't see the name here. Yeah, I met person number 3. And he told me that he had just passed close to the police station, the main police station in town, and he had seen very many people who were demonstrating inside the police station. Mr. William Ruto was inside addressing the police.
Did person number 3 tell you what he had heard Mr. Ruto saying at the police station?
No.
And did he say what Mr. Ruto had been speaking about in general?
Yes, that he was also in the group of people who are making allegations that the election had been stolen well in advance.
Mr. President, I have one question for private session.
Private session.
Nous sommes en audience.
We are in open session, Mr. President.
Witness, just to remind you, we're back in open session now. I asked you a moment ago how the atmosphere was, and you'd said it was tense. So, did you stay in Eldoret, or did you go home?
We just went home.
And as you were leaving Eldoret, did you notice anything? Did you observe anything unusual?
Yes, as I was leaving home, the route that I had taken to go and join another route that goes to my home, there were some other demonstrations, not really demonstrations, but people gathered around a business that used to is a storage for milk storage facility belonging to, that's called that belonged to the Kenyatta family. That is what I got to understand. And the people gathered around there were planning to put it on fire, alleging that some of the stuffed ballot papers marked in favor of the Kibaki had been stored there. That is the reason why they wanted to burn that facility. The facility is called Brookside.
Now, the people who were gathered there, were they supporting one particular party or other?
Supporting ODM.
And from your observations, what ethnicity were those people?
They were mainly Luos, some few Luyas, and a few Kalenjins.
Now, you said a moment ago that the people gathered there were planning to put it on fire, and they were alleging...
I'm sorry, I'm just a little unclear. Did the witness go or not? I'm not clear.
It seems clear to me, but I can ask the question again. Witness, do you remember the name of the milk facility that you were passing where you saw this crowd of people?
Brookside Dairy.
Now, you'd said that the crowd who had gathered there were planning to burn it as it was being used to store stuffed ballot papers. How did you come to know that? How did you learn that?
I met people who had just come from that crowd that were familiar to me. And in fact, I did not go close to where they were, but from a distance I could see what was happening. And that is what made me not pass through there, but I took another route before I arrived there. So I was told by people that those people are planning to burn.
If you can, approximately how far from this crowd were you as you passed it?
About 70 meters.
And the crowd that you'd seen gathered outside the dairy, are you able to estimate approximately how many people may have been in that crowd?
There are over 100.
We need to clear that up. Line 7, is it 8 or 70 meters?
70 meters, 70.
Witness, did you hear any other information regarding supposed faked ballot papers?
Yes, I did hear that that was later in the evening that a vehicle belonging to a company, a public transport company called Mololine, had been put on fire because it was alleged that it was transporting some more stuffed ballot papers.
Mr. President, I have one follow-up question for the private session. For a private
session.
Court officer, we are in open session, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Witness that we were talking about the 26th of December. I'd now like to ask you about the 27th of December, the day of the voting, of the election. If I could refer you to the sheet in front of you, and if you could tell the court, using the numbers, where you voted that day.
Location 1. Sorry? Location 4.
And the rest of the 27th was uneventful?
Yes.
I'd now like to take you forward to the 30th of December, to the day that the winner of the election was announced, 3 days after the election. Do you recall that day that the election was announced? And were you following the results as they were being announced?
I was.
Once again, if I can ask you to use the sheet in front of you, could you tell the court where you were while you were listening to the results on the radio?
Location 2.
Now, from your recollection, can you tell the court which candidate was initially leading the voting on the 30th of December?
Raila Odinga.
Did he remain ahead and in the lead throughout the day?
No. At some point toward the end of the announcement of the results, he was overtaken by Mwai Kibaki.
Can you remember approximately at what time of day Mwai Kibaki overtook Raila Odinga?
It was in the afternoon, probably between 3 and 4 there, going 5.
Now, witness, I don't want you to say any names, but could you tell the court how people in your area reacted as Kibaki began to overtake Odinga?
They were very excited because previously when Raila was leading, people were not excited, but when results started coming in quick and he was overtaking, people were excited.
And in fact, later that day, Kibaki was announced as the presidential winner, wasn't he?
True.
Can you recall approximately what time that was?
It was beyond 4, if I'm not wrong. 4 or beyond.
I just want to take you back to your previous answer where you said that people were excited as Kibaki was closing the gap. Could you just be a bit more specific? Which people are you referring to?
The Kikuyu community.
Now, when Kibaki was announced the winner, what was the reaction of the people in Nyamumbi?
There was general celebration, and people came out of their homes to come and join the others in celebrating.
Did everybody celebrate?
I'm saying it is the Kikuyus mostly who celebrated, but clearly you could see, I could see some other communities like the Turkanas were not very in a celebratory mood, and also some of the Luos who are living within Nyamumbis were also not in a celebratory mood.
These people who weren't in a celebratory mood, did they do anything? How did they react?
I remember there were some women from the Kalenjin community who had come to sell milk, and they did not finish selling, so they withdrew and quickly went back home.
Mr. President, I'd request once again that we enter private session. I have a discrete topic that I'd like to explore with the witness. I think it should take about 5 minutes, probably no more.
Private session.
Court officer, we are in open session, Mr. President.
Now, witness, still on the 30th of December, the day of the announcement, I'd like you to cast your mind back to the evening of that day. Can you tell the court if you recall hearing anything out of the ordinary on the evening of the 30th?
Yes, that evening, around beyond 8, I received information together with others that had gathered outside that a house belonging to Sweden. I don't see the name. Person 9 had been put on fire by Kalenjins.
Person number 9, could you tell the court if you know his ethnicity?
Kikuyu.
Mr. President, I have 2 follow-up questions further to that, which should be done privately if the court's minded.
Private session.
Nous sommes en audience publique.
We are in public session, Mr. President.
Witness, when person number 9 came and told you that his house had been put on fire by the Kalenjins, did he tell you if he had seen anything else?
Yes, he told me, together with others that we were with there, that he had seen about 6 young Kalenjin men come to his house, and he was alone, so he took cover in some bush within the house, around the house, and he observed that they poured something like petrol onto his house, and then it went up in flames.
Now, he told you that they were young Kalenjin men. Did he tell you anything else about their appearance or what they looked like?
Yes, he told me that they were having bows and arrows, and that they had worn a sleeveless top, and then they had smeared themselves with some kind of paint on their face and arms, and they wore a short.
Do you mean shorts?
Pair of shorts each.
A pair of shorts, thank you. Now, he said that they were young men. Was he able to tell you their ages approximately?
Look, he told us that they were young, and he has approximated like 16, 17, 18 years.
And how did he know that they were Kalenjin?
He said that he was sure they're Kalenjin, that was he said, and that they had come from the direction of the Kalenjin farms.
And did he say what they did after they had set fire to his house?
Yes, that from his location where he was hiding, he saw them dash for the next house that belongs to his neighbor. And while he was, because he moved from there after that and came towards our direction, he was able to see the neighbor's house go up in flames again.
And this neighbor, what ethnicity was he?
Kikuyu.
Or she, for that matter?
Kikuyu.
Witness, am I correct that whilst this person was telling you this, you were located at location number 1? Is that right?
True.
And was anything else happening at this time at location number 1?
Yes, at location number 1, while that person, number 9, was narrating these stories to us, many people were also coming in a rush from their homesteads and reporting to us that their houses had been put on fire. They were mostly women and children with their belongings.
From whereabouts were these people arriving at the location?
They were arriving from within the farm from location 8, which is a location within the farm, and location 9.
Can you tell the court whether those two locations, 8 and 9, are within Yamumbi? What was the time approximately when this happened?
It was about 10.
So am I correct that it was nighttime?
Nighttime.
Could you describe how you could see them?
They were visible because although it was dark, but there was some moonlight, and I managed to see them because I passed quite close to where I was. Because I remember at some point I actually came very close to them, then I retreated, and then I hid in the bush.
You described them as young men. Were you able to tell approximately their ages?
Average of 18 years.
And could you describe how they were moving as they went past you?
I noticed them when they were trying to pass through the barbed wire fence. But as soon as they crossed that fence, they rushed, as in they ran.
Were they running as a group?
They were running in a file, like there was someone at the front and the rest followed in a line.
And were they running at the same speed or at different speed?
At the same speed.
Just answer this yes or no, witness. Did you know or recognize any of these individuals?
No.
Did you hear them say anything?
No.
And after they ran past you, did you see them do anything?
I moved from where I was hidden, and after some time I saw a house toward the direction that they had gone go on fire.
Just using the sheet in front of you, if you can, tell the court where that house was.
It was located within location 8.
Did you know the owner, the ethnicity of the owner of that house?
Yes,
Could you tell the court?
Kikuyu.
Mr. President, I note the time. That would be perhaps a convenient moment to pause.
It is indeed time for the lunch break. Witness, we will take our lunch break now and come back at 2:30, and you will rejoin us at that time. The blinds will come down so that the witness is ushered out of the courtroom.